Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 30-Minute Gospel. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host as we open and study the Bible together. I'll be reading from the King James Version, but you can feel free to read whichever translation that best suits you. I would just recommend that you have a version that does not delete verses from God's holy word. Each video will be a biblical teaching of 30 minutes or less. My material is completely 100% free, so you can share these videos with family members, co-workers, friends, or anyone you know who either needs to hear the Word of God or wants to study it in a casual setting. The gospel is free to all, so I will not accept any donations, gifts, or beg viewers for money. Please give to your local church or a Christian organization of your choosing. You can reach out to me with questions or comments at 30minutegospel@gmail.com, but please keep your message respectful and cordial. Well, greetings again, everybody, and thank you again for tuning in to the 30-minute gospel. We've been on a subject that has been one that's been it might have rubbed some of y'all the wrong way, and what we've been discussing is the Bible and your health. All right, and we've established a lot in the previous videos. I recommend, there's already 4 videos. I'd recommend going back and watching those if you have not seen any of them. But what we've basically been discussing is that in Genesis 1:29, God established that we were supposed to eat plants, foods, so fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains. And then he made it a command in Genesis chapter 3, verse 17 and 18. He said, "You shall eat the herb of the field." That is a command. We have to do that. As I said, you cannot do that, but there will be consequences, and the consequences is you'll be sick and you'll be in poor health if you decide not to do that. It's your choice. Just like anything else is your choice. It's like I said, he established. I use this as an example. He established the law of gravity. Okay, that's fine. You will obey that law. If you decide you don't want to obey it, that's fine. But there'll be consequences. You walk off the side of a cliff. There's going to be consequences to that, and there's consequences for not following his laws and his dictates. Okay, and so just to let you know, this is not like we said, this is not a salvation issue. This has nothing to do with your salvation. This has nothing to do if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you're saved. These are just principles that are there, and I do not in any of these videos bash doctors at all or the medical community, even though they get things wrong on some things. And also, I'm not telling you to stop taking your medicine either. Okay, but this is what we've been discussing, and how it's expected of you to eat your fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains on a regular basis, on a daily basis, really. And anything that's outside of that, like I said, like if you want to have, like a brownie or something or a cookie, that's fine, but it should be an occasional thing, very rare. I wouldn't even, some people say once a week. I wouldn't even say once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. But the rest of the time you should be eating regularly. And we talked about how, and we're going to talk about this again here, is about how man defines food and how God defines food. It's two separate things. It's two separate things. Man defines food completely different. They define food as cookies and crackers and ice cream. That's not how God defines food. He defined it. He said it comes from the plants. That's what he says. And he says it's one other place. He calls it food, one other place. And we're going to discuss that here today. And I know this has been a subject that a lot of y'all have been waiting for. I'm not saying that we're going to talk about the meat part of it today in this video. Now, I'm not saying that you have to become a vegetarian. I still eat meat. Okay. The issue with meat that goes along with it is one, people eat the meat God says not to eat. Now you can eat those things. God allows it today. He still allows it. But if you eat those meats, there might be some problems. You have to be careful with them. Those meats will be something like you can eat, I would say occasionally, not on a regular basis. Okay? And the problem is we eat too much meat. That's really a big issue. You really shouldn't be eating meat 3 times a day. Okay? That's why God put protein in other sources of foods. You can get protein in there's some protein in bread. There's some protein in fruits and vegetables, in quinoa, in nuts and seeds. There's protein there. And so what happens is that meat should be eaten on kind of I eat meat only at dinner time, really, unless I'm somewhere where I have to eat it. Otherwise, it's only at dinner time. And there are nights in the week where I might skip meat, like 1 or 2 nights a week. I just don't eat meat. I eat just vegetables. Maybe a salad. Like my wife and I used to love to go to a place that has a wonderful salad bar. Just go get some salad and get the protein from the nuts and seeds, because meat can be inflammatory to the system. It takes a lot more for the body to digest meat. Whereas fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains kind of go through your stomach within 30 minutes to an hour. It could take a while, especially if you have low stomach acid, to break down meat. I have an issue breaking down meat. I have to use digestive enzymes, and my low stomach acid, I have to use butane hydrochloride in order to digest the meat properly. That's why I don't eat it as much. And meat's very, very inflammatory. It can cause kidney stones. Some of meats are very high in cholesterol and fats and stuff like that. So you have to be careful with meat when you eat it. There's nothing wrong with eating meat. It is not a sin to eat meat. Okay, but what we talked about was that people say, well, we're not under the dietary laws, we're not under those laws anymore, you know, and that's true. We are not. But when you read the law, which we're going to read, that Moses established, that's what we're talking about. As I've said in previous videos, it only dealt with what type of meat you were supposed to eat, what he allowed and didn't allow. Okay, it didn't say anything about fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains, because it was already expected for you to eat those. He established that principle back in Genesis chapter 3. Jesus got rid of the curse of the law. So Jesus did away with the law in the sense that we don't have to follow it unless God says or certain parts of it we have to follow in the New Testament. But when it came to fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains, that was part of Genesis. Just like Jesus got rid of the curse of the law. He didn't get rid of curses. I can talk about that in another video, but he didn't get rid of curses. The curse on the earth is still here. Okay, that was established in Genesis chapter 3. He didn't get rid of the curse of the blessing of the nation of Israel when God said, "I will bless those that bless thee and curse those that curse thee," in Genesis chapter 12 verse 3 to Abraham. That curse is still in effect. Okay, so those parts are still in effect. He got rid of what's from Exodus to Malachi. That's what Jesus kind of did away with, as you would say, do away with. But we don't face the consequences under there. We don't have to. We can eat whatever meat we want to, but it's still, just because God allows it, it doesn't mean it's profitable. All things are. That's what Paul talks about. He says all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable for me. Okay, so all things are lawful, so you can eat whatever meat. It doesn't mean it's going to be profitable to you. Okay, now God first allowed, so we're going to get to the meat consumption. God first allowed meat consumption in Genesis chapter 9 verses 1 through 4. After the flood, he talks to Noah. Okay, in Genesis chapter 9. So I'm going to go over there. If you'll turn with your Bibles with me to Genesis chapter 9, verses 1 through 4. God says this, the word says this, and God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea, and into your hand are they delivered. You see, that's still in effect to this day too. If you ever study science, it tells you all animals have a fear of human beings. They all do. And I think it started here because we started it's like an instinctual thing that started here because we started eating animals. And before this, we didn't eat animals. Okay, we didn't eat animals. So therefore they saw us do this, and so the kind of, I guess, like the friendliness between us and the animal kingdom went away. And so animals still have that dread upon them. So he didn't do away with this. This is still there. Okay. Uh, and upon all the fish, and into your hand they are delivered. Now, verse 3, it says, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. So therefore God says he's given all the animals to us to eat. Okay, so there he defines food again. Food is defined first as fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains, and he also divides this, or he does meat as well. Okay, so that's how God defined food. God does not put in there Snickers bars, Twinkies, sodas, cakes, cookies. That's not what he defined as food. And as I said in a previous video, it says all things God has created are good. That's what Paul says. Man created, for example, chocolate. We'll use chocolate chip cookies. Man created chocolate chip cookies. Man created high fructose corn syrup. Okay, man created that, and as I said, just because God allows you to create things doesn't mean it's good for you, because he allowed us to create the atomic bomb. He allowed us to create machine guns. He allows us to create the chemicals that we spray, like bleach and Clorox and things like that, to clean things. Now we can use that, but that stuff's poisonous to us. Doesn't mean it's good for us. He allowed us to create Roundup, and Roundup's been linked to cancer. So just because God allows it to be to us or to us to create it does not mean it's good for us. And they say, well, the government says it's okay. And as I said, the government says lots of things. Okay? They say lots of things that are not true. So you can't trust them. Who can you trust? You can trust God and his word. And this is what he says. So God allows meat. Why did he allow meat? It's because the earth's been destroyed. The earth was destroyed. There was no food left on the earth. So the man had to survive on something. Now, it's my belief that today there's several things that you can only get from meat that sustain you in life. One of those is B12, vitamin B12. I believe that there was a source of vitamin B12 at some point because Adam and Eve had to get it. It was in the plants, but it's been depleted. So man has been dependent upon eating animals in order to get that. Vitamin K2, same thing. Iron, mostly iron. There is iron in other foods, but it's very high in the meats. So that's where it comes from. But eating meat is not a sin. Okay, so God establishes it. But the issue is that Christians and most people eat too much meat. That's the problem. And they eat too much of the meats that God says that you shouldn't be eating if you know what's best for you. Now you can eat those. I'm not saying it's not illegal. We're going to talk about that with pork, for example. But you have to be careful with pork, and you shouldn't be eating it all the time. That's the problem. If you're going to eat all the time, if you're going to eat meat most of the time, you should probably eat the meats we're going to talk about that you can eat along with, eating pork every so often. Just like if you're going to eat a cupcake, it's okay. It's not, but eat it once in a while or some sort of dessert. Don't eat it all the time. That's the problem. Is eating sugar a sin? No, it's not. But we eat too much of it. That's the problem. That is the problem. And that's why we're seeing what we see today with all the sickness. That's why we're seeing that. Okay. And so the blood, though, with that, you cannot eat blood with meat in it. Okay. God talks about this in Leviticus 17, and this is still even mentioned in the book of Acts. You're not allowed to eat meat with blood in it at all. Period. There were men that were starving with Saul, and they were doing that. They were cutting, not taking the blood out and eating the meat because they were starving, and they had to stop them from doing that because they were violating the Mosaic law. Okay? And you cannot eat it. But if you go to the book of Acts 15:20, this is the council at Jerusalem where they come up with, well, what parts of the law should the Gentiles follow? Because there was a lot of confusion with that. Peter, a lot of Jews were saying you have to follow the whole law. And Paul was saying, no, you don't. So they came up with this thing. And it says in Acts 15:20, it says, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication and from things strangled and from blood. So that's what he's talking about, is you stay away from meat, things that are strangled. That means anything that died. You're not supposed to eat roadkill, for example. You're supposed to eat fresh meat, that dies humanely, and then you're supposed to eat nothing with blood in it. Okay, so if you eat any meat with blood in it, that is a violation of God's law. And at that point you are sinning. But if you're eating pork, you're not sinning. But if you're eating pork with blood still in it, you're sinning. If you're eating steak, that's fine if it doesn't have the blood in it. Now steak is a clean meat, but if it has blood in it, it's contaminated. You're not supposed to eat it because the life of the flesh is in the blood. Okay, God established that the life of the flesh is in the blood, so you should not be eating that. Okay. So in Leviticus chapter 11, I'm going to go through this. Okay, we're going to go through this whole chapter talking about the meats that you can eat. Okay. All right, so I'm going to read this whole chapter to you. Okay. All right, so we're going to go right through this so that everyone knows. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which you shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that ye shall eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divided the hoof. As the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, that's rabbit, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you. And the swine, that's pig, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcasses shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. These shall you eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever have fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of all the living things which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall be even an abomination unto you. You shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcass. You should have their carcasses an abomination. Whatsoever have no fins, nor scales in the waters, that shall you be an abomination unto you. And these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle and the ossifrage, and the osprey, and the vulture, and the kite after this kind, even every raven after his kind, and the owl, and the night hawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk after his kind, and the little owl, and the cormorant, and the great owl, and the swan, and the pelican, and the greer eagle, and the stork, the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. All fowls that creep, going upon all four, shall be an abomination unto you. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you. And these shall be unclean. Whatever toucheth the carcass of them shall be unclean until the even. Okay, so what we're talking about here, let's talk about the animals first. First of all, for them to be clean, they had to have a divided hoof, and they chew the cud. What does chewing the cud mean? That means they chew it, they spit it back up, and chew it again, like cows. Okay? The reason why they do that is because their digestive system's more complex. Chewing it up makes sure that it's very clean and everything else is going in there. Okay? So the other animals, these animals that he says are clean, are what they call the foraging animals. Like, for example, cows eat grass. Okay? Chickens eat seeds and things like that. Turkeys eat seeds and things like that. These sorts of birds and animals, lambs eat grass. That's healthy stuff for your body. Okay, they're eating like cows just eat grass. Okay, chickens, they eat seeds, these things. When you're looking at the things in the sea, you're eating the ones with fins and scales are the ones that are eating usually like the seaweed and the kelp and all the other little things around. It's like the healthy stuff for you. Okay, that's why God says it, because when they're eating, when the cow eats the grass, that grass and the nutrients goes into the muscle, which is what you eat. So you're eating that good nutrition from the cow. Okay, the other animals that we're eating, some of them, they don't have the complex like the rabbit. They don't chew the cud, so they don't have the complex system in them. Okay, so because of that, not all the nutrients are in their flesh and stuff like that, so it's not healthy for you. The other ones that are in there are what they call scavengers. Okay, like when they're talking about vultures, hawks, eagles, owls. Owls eat mice. Okay, eagles eat and vultures eat dead carcasses on the road, like dead squirrels. You know, um, a lot of these things, and that goes for the sea too. Crabs eat like the garbage at the bottom, the dead rotting carcass stuff at the bottom of the ocean. Okay, oysters um, clean up like the garbage in the water. So like when there's oil spills and gasoline is accidentally dropped in the water, they clean that up. Okay, that's why you're not supposed to eat those things. Pigs eat other pigs, or been known to eat humans. If they die or something, they eat like garbage. They're wallowing in the mud. They're just not healthy for you. That's why God is really establishing this. Notice he says it's not an abomination unto him. Okay, there are certain things that are an abomination unto him. He says it's an abomination unto God when men wear women's clothes and women wear men's clothes. That's what God says. But he says it's an abomination unto you, meaning it's going to make you sick. That's what that means. It didn't say it's an abomination unto him because he allows it. He's going to allow it later on. But this is what's going to happen is it's what's going to make you healthy. Okay. Now, if you look at the sea, that's what happens. Like catfish sharks eat other fish. They eat dead carcasses. That's not what you want. You want the fish like the tuna or the salmon that eat like the healthy stuff of the sea. Like the seaweed or something. They're doing that. They're eating that stuff. That you want the green stuff. That's what's healthy for you. Just like the cows and everything else. Those are the things that are healthy for you. Okay, those meats are what's healthy for you. So like deer and lamb and these sorts of things, those things are really, really good for you. All right, now what I'm saying is that you can eat pork. That's what I'm saying. Today God did away with that. Okay, we're going to talk about that. He did not do that in Acts. A lot of people get that confused. In Acts, where Peter sees the sheet fall down in his dream, and it says, God says to him, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." And Peter famously says, "Well, Lord, nothing unclean has ever touched my mouth, has ever come into my animal," because he saw all different animals. Okay, it was like all of them. He said, "Do not call unclean what I have called clean." And many people will use that verse and this verse and this story as, see, God allows you to eat everything that you want to now. Well, or any animal. Well, he does, but that's not the verse to use for it, because that was symbolic, talking about Cornelius. Because after Peter gets up, Cornelius comes. Cornelius was a Gentile. Gentiles were unclean. And God is no longer calling the Gentiles unclean. He is calling them clean now under his Son, because there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. That's what it says. There's no difference between neither Jew nor Greek. All are one in Christ. So what he was saying was that it was symbolic. It's like these animals, these unclean animals, represent the Gentiles. They are what are coming in. God is not. I'm not going to, be with these people. God's saying they are no longer called unclean. Okay? That's what he's saying there. Okay? Now, in the book of Mark, it talks about this. Mark says, or no, I'm sorry, it's Matthew chapter 15. Okay? I'm going to go there. If you go to Matthew chapter 15, and verses 15, 16 through 20, it says, and Jesus says, Are ye also yet without understanding? Do you not understand that whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goeth into the belly and cast out into the drought? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands defileth not a man. Okay, so and it says in some versions, it says by doing this, Jesus declared all foods clean. Okay, which is fine. Yeah, that is true. That's fine. That's a fine verse, but you can't use the story in Acts. I've heard people use that story in the book of Acts, and it just doesn't work. And so Jesus did away with the ordinances of the law. Ordinances, that includes the meats. So Jesus did that. You can eat. Man is now able to eat pork, shellfish, eat all, etc. Okay, they can eat it. But but what it says is not a sin, but it still doesn't mean it's healthy for you. Okay? Just like it's okay to drink a soda, but that doesn't mean it's healthy for you. Okay? It's okay for you to eat a cookie, but it doesn't mean it's healthy for you. One of the funniest things I always find out is whenever we go to a lot of churches will do this. It's almost like they have to prove to everybody that they're not under the law. Because almost every church I know of, especially if they're in the southern, I shouldn't say any denomination, but southern, we'll say the SBC, they always want to have what in the springtime? They always want to have an oyster roast. And what do they almost always serve with an oyster roast? Pork. They always serve barbecue, pork. It's like they have to prove to everyone, we are not under this law. Well, it's fine. You can eat those things, but just be careful with them, because they can make you sick. Just because you're able to eat something doesn't mean it's necessarily good for you. And that's why I recommend, if you're going to eat these things, eat them sparingly. Okay? I don't eat any of those. I don't really like seafood, but I don't eat pork, I don't eat any of that. I eat basically steak, chicken, turkey, that's basically lamb, that's basically what I eat. And like I said, you can eat those. It's not a sin, but that doesn't mean it's healthy for you. So I want you to remember that. We're going to talk more about the meat too as well, but it does not mean it's healthy for you. Okay? Alrighty. Well, thank you again, everybody, for this one. We're going to continue back with the meat and more of the health. Hopefully, we'll be finished with this. This is on the 5th video, okay? But I just want to thank you for tuning in. I just want to, please ask you to subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. And also to like the video, too, and share it with whoever you want to. It's completely 100% free. You can share this with anybody who may need to hear it. Okay. If you have any questions for me, you can reach out to me at 30minutegospel@gmail.com. That 30 is a 30, and that's available on my Facebook page, which I have, and also my also on my channel as well. And but if you're going to write to me, please do not write anything vile or anything like that. I'm just not going to read it, or anything nasty. Okay. Alrighty, I thank you so much again, and I'll leave you with this. And just as a reminder, remember, as Theodore Roosevelt once said, a thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education. God bless you.